on the east coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave
and Mecky
on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com, where it's more than just radio, so jump into the chat room if you can. This is show number 423.
320 and 400.
That was, you did know that whole thing, that whole interaction there, that was organic. That arose from creativity. It's on air, online, and on your smart device, so grab an app to listen from anywhere or listen at home on a great tabletop digital radio. If you missed Solaris's show, and I hope you didn't, because it was truly awesome, once again, Solaris had her Cyber Witch Cafe, and I caught almost all of it today, and I was real proud of myself for catching up with it. It's her monthly show, and Montana Jordan and Nish, Two Eyes, was on, and they discuss magic and witchcraft. I really respect it. It's such a good, for me, when you're doing all this stuff, now of course we're working from home and we're doing, it was really a little great escape. It's like a bit of escapism for me to get back to being connected with that part of me. Does that make sense, Mecky? Because we ignore it a lot in our daily lives. Like, it's not something that we can do.
No, and we're taught that, though,
Oh, that's conditioned out of you. Absolutely. Yeah. So, but if you don't know who Solaris is and you don't know how to access shows that have been on air already, there's an archive. And through the station website, you can subscribe to that. And you can pay $5 US, I think it is, per month. And guess what? You get access to not only Solaris' shows, but my shows, or Mecky and I's shows. You get all the host shows, and you can download them. They're MP3s, and you can listen to in your own leisure. And as we do now, clearly, binge watching, 5, 6, 7 seasons of some show now that we're all confined to home, and that commuting time to work is now, it's yours again, if you choose to use it. Otherwise, it disappears. Getting a lot of stuff done around the house might be something else you get to do. Spending time with the family, imagine that. Maggie, who knew that was going to be 2020's law of the land? Who knew?
Oh, look, yeah, I agree. It's a surprising year.
It sure is. So, Mecky and I, just to get the show on the road, Mecky and I both, we live in Australia, and we occupy, respectively, 2 different areas that had the traditional custodians looking after the lands of Australia, and where I live, it's the Dark and Jung people. And Mecky?
Yeah, for me, it's the Rock people.
Yeah, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And it's an incredible thing now that I'm spending so much more time at home. I'm getting, I think, I'm establishing, Mecky, a greater communication and connection with the soil, with the land. Because we're not going anywhere. Like, when you're travelling over it, you're starting to lose that perspective. When you arrive somewhere else and you have some communication and chats and you're all busy and you come back home again, that amount of time you spend at home is limited because you're time poor. Mecky, this has given me a whole new perspective on what it meant to be a custodian of the land, and for so long they've been looking after it.
Yeah, you have no choice but to be here, right? Like you pointed out, we travel for work, and we travel to work and from work, and the land is just something we pass over. Mm-hmm. We don't really think about it. It's just not really. Here's the land. Your house happens to be on it. So what? Now that you're there, and you're more present, hopefully mindful of your surroundings, and you probably are more mindful of the things that are going on your land, the land that you live on. At the state of it, the relative position, the view from it, the smells from it, because you're spending a lot more time outside of it because you can't go anywhere else. You're there. That's where you are. It's a very different reality, and it's a reality that is very similar to the reality that our ancestors had, not just Aboriginals, but our ancestors, even as short a time as 100 years ago. Travel wasn't really a big thing, not like we travel today, or used to anyway, before COVID. But
it took a whole day to go like 30 miles.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, going to this, like, if you live down, I don't know, let's say Katoomba here in Sydney, right? It's about, I don't know, 50 or 40 kilometers from the city. If you live in Katoomba in the Blue Mountains, it'll be a weekend event, I guess, or even a week thing to go down to Sydney, to the shops or whatever it might be, the big smoke. So you make a trip of it, maybe even like I said, a week away from home, because it's such a long journey. It just takes you forever. And imagine before they had trains, Dave, it'd be a horse ride or carriage ride.
Carriage, yeah.
Or if you didn't have any cash, you'd be walking it, right?
Oh, yeah, good luck with that. So, Ryde, Meckie knows where that is. The top of the hill at Ryde was the original Cobb & Co. stopping point from a whole day's journey from the city. It's really crazy. Just how...
It's half-hour drive now, right?
Yeah, that's right. Half an hour drive, good to go. And we can get all the way... I can get to Bathurst and back in a day. That's an 8-hour round trip. It's crazy. It's just really, really crazy how much our lives have changed. But now they've changed back again. And we're not going anywhere, and we're not doing anything, and we're... the amount of... I had a laundry list of things that I'd sort of put off for such a long time. I've got them all done. I've got a container, Meckie, a skip coming. Then I'm going to just junk all this stuff of mine, my old stuff. We've got some, some things happening at home. So we called up the builder and said, you may as well come here, and because it's... You think about the kind of industries now that need to move around. There aren't many. So, building is one, pool repairs, electricity, plumbing, those things. But, there's so many frontline services that have been just deleted because we were out and about. I'm so happy that I think, lucky to be in a service industry that doesn't require face-to-face, that we've got the ability to do face-to-face. We have all of the the tech that allows us to communicate. The kids have online schooling right now. There's going to be like 2 weeks, Meckie, staggered start, getting the kids back in.
That's what they say.
Yeah, I know, right? Ours might be 2 days away. We're not sure, so we don't know how they're going to stagger themselves to start yet. But
Okay.
But I have to say, last night, Meckie, we had some friends of mine. We decided to have a dinner party. I didn't really dress up as much as I should, but we did. We had a dinner party, and both families, ordered takeout to try and keep those companies going.
Yep, good.
Delivery, even, and did the best we could to get something really nice. So we had a seafood at our house, and they had Indian at their house.
Yep.
And I had like calamari. Belinda ordered some lobster mornay. Because I don't know what the poor people are doing.
Oh, this caviar stale. Away with you, commoner, before my lash finds your back. Huh?
So my friend was telling me, I won't tell you where he works, but my friend was telling me that he's
paying you too much money. That's what the problem is.
that's there you go. So my friend was telling me that he's had meetings with people from all around the world in his role, and I think it was an Indian representative within the business had the servants come in and provide silver service still to that person in lockdown. Here's a cup of tea, here's the things, there's some sandwiches with the edges cut off, and they bowed and walked out again.
But good. Bowing, that's the most important part of the day. Bowing, that's it. Everything else, as long as they bow. Jesus.
It was like royalty, he said. It's sort of a little surprised because you'd never seen these people in their home environment. But for the most part, people are wearing casual clothes and t-shirts, and they're not doing the full suit to be on social media or the collaboration platforms. So. It's a completely different world, and we were all joking about what that was going to look like. And some experts, Meki, are currently talking about what's the post-coronavirus future going to look like for us. And there's a quote here from realcommercial.com.au, and it says, "Our CBDs may never be quite the same again thanks to the giant global experiment of working from our homes." They even sort of touching on this, the conspiracy theory that is none of this is real, which is really funny. But we asked developers, landlords, and urban planners and strategies for their take on the future, and the what it boiled down to was basically them saying that they were going to expect changes where current commercial buildings may be refitted into residential.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a CEO of a company, right, and look, we're all working for large companies, Dave and I, right? It's just the way we crumble. The point is that if you have this huge real estate bill, and for the last 2 or 3 months, you looked at it because you still have it. It doesn't matter because you're still occupying the
whether
building,
there's
right?
people at work or not. That's right.
Yeah. So you're asking yourself, well, do I really need it? Is this really something I need? And the answer is, well, probably not.
That's right.
You probably do not need it, and a lot of these guys would say, "Oh, okay, so I can work from home. So my people can work from home. So the tech is now advanced enough." Because that was always the question, right? The question was the video conferencing, the bandwidth. Can we really have all these town halls with several hundred people on? Can we do this? Can we do that? The answer is, yep,
completely.
You really can.
And we have been able to do that for some time, but it's taken this event for us to prove it, to prove the technology in the world's biggest POC. So the main quote, there are some people who see this as the death knell for offices. So for people having a commercial building. Now that we're used to working remotely, surely there's a cost saving to be had. That's the opening statement from that article, Mickey, and I was. The article continues to go in that same vein. It's not an argument they're posing, then answer against it. So
but the thing is this, though. Sorry to interject.
No.
It's probably true for quite a few offices, businesses. Not all of them, and certainly none of the small businesses. Okay, so the vast majority of employers are small businesses, right? Large multinationals, sure, I can see that if it's just really office work and you're removed from people altogether. Creative work, though, work where you actually want to stick your heads together once in a while, face to face. Work where you're customer facing, that's not going to go away either.
That's
and
right.
then of course customers that are bound to a certain site, or people, businesses that are bound to a site. Simply because that's where the factory is, or that's where the machine is, or that's where the station is, or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
right?
if you're a maintenance worker having to maintain something, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's IT or mechanical, you'll have to be on site. Yeah.
What we can say, though, I think with some certainty, is there's going to be a massive move for the multinationals to cut costs, and these buildings, some of these buildings might very well stand empty. I mean, there was this building in North Sydney here in Australia, and I think Optus was in there.
Yeah, I know which building.
And it's really it's one of the tallest building in North Sydney, and it's part of a shopping complex. And Optus, well, you know what, we're going to move out. So they moved out to a business park about 20 or so clicks away, and that building was empty. Right? That was just it. And it turned North Sydney, for the time it was unoccupied, into a ghost town, right? Business is still there, but I mean, lunchtime business for the smaller businesses wasn't around. So if these offices were to be closed, there's a massive massive knock-on effect. Parking fees, lunchtime crowds, coffee crowds, casual shopping, all those things. The businesses that are there near these offices, they also would have to. Well, I'll gotta go do something else now.
It's such high density commercial.
Yeah.
So there's per person per square meter one person per square meter. No, that's not the amount of people per square meter in an office floor. Yeah. There you go. Is a lot higher than if it was residential.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we had an office we still have an office, but it's been sort of put on hiatus right now, in the city, in King Street. If you're familiar with Sydney, it's not cheap real estate, and we were like 4 to a desk.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that's not comfortable. These are not massive desks. I mean, it was open plan and all that, so no cubicles, but still, it was quite crowded. Look. We said this before, and we'll say it again. This event is going to change the social fabric, the social dynamics of our society, and it'll change it, but only where societies can afford for the change to take root. So obviously, developing nations, countries where the poverty population is quite high, they probably will not have as much of an impact from this, like from a change to the social fabric. What I predict though is that a lot of those people will actually pass away, the poorer ones, right? In countries that just can't cope with this, and I don't believe the numbers anymore now. I look at the numbers, I don't believe them.
Correct.
I believe the American numbers, I believe the Australian numbers, because I'm here, I can see it. In America, well, it's impossible to keep any secrets in America. It's just not happening, right? But other countries, I'm looking at Russia, looking at India, China, you can't trust at all the numbers. And what we've learned from Governor Cuomo, even in the American numbers, and Dave is aware of this, we discussed it just before the show.
That's right.
The only counting numbers of deceased in relation to this pandemic from hospitals and aged care facilities. That's it. And there was a report that I watched the other night, and this was following New York ambulance drivers and hospital workers, nurses and so forth around for a period of time. And what these first responders, especially the ambulance drivers, were saying is they saw a massive spike in cardiac arrests, and as Dave reminded me, also strokes.
That's right.
So like before, we said this.
No, I lost Mecky. I don't know what happened. His audio will come back, absolutely no doubt. There we go.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, I have no idea what happened. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this. I don't know. But
we get hit tons. We get hit tons when we bring up things you shouldn't mention.
I know, right? But sorry, I don't know if you hit the last bit. It's a blood disorder, but we've been saying this for a while now.
That's right.
And the key thing to understand here is that we might never understand or know the true impact of this. We will know it in a year or two after this is finished. We will know it from the census figures that will come through. And I'm now firmly of the belief, after having seen the developments and where countries are heading, and luckily with the exception of Australia and a couple of other countries, but the majority of the countries unfortunately are heading the way of Spain and Italy. As far as infections are concerned, the fatality rate luckily doesn't seem as high, but again, who knows what's being counted. But I do believe that this is the event to stop the awareness cascade.
Absolutely.
Initially, I didn't think so, because I thought, it's a hard call to make this early. And then I was reminded, Dave, of the show we did on the microbiologists. Bioweapons.
Not that many shows ago, yeah.
Not that many shows ago. And in fact, when we first did it, that was about 6 or 7 years ago, I want to say, or thereabouts. And so we did the updated show recently. And scores, if not hundreds of microbiologists and so forth were died. In some instances were killed or committed suicide, it seemed, or had accidents. and a lot of them were leading in their field.
Even
a lot of them.
pairs of people in the same lab.
100%. Yeah. So this was this was years. This started in 2000, but it hit its peak in 2010ish, roughly, right? And now we're 10 years after that, and I think maybe, and this is
maybe they weren't going to play ball, Mickey.
That's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, 100%. And I know it's completely left field, but
that's the shiny side out. We can do that.
Exactly. So what if these people were removed for reasons so something like this could occur and take place without the interference of these top level specialists that may very well not have played ball, right? So we remove these people, set the I don't want to call it industry, but set the community back a few years. And maybe we would be faster in responding. I mean, the response from the medical establishment has been pretty fast, because they're down the front lines. A lot of nurses and doctors have died. But I'm just thinking the removal of those microbiologists played into the hands, I believe, of this particular pandemic.
It's assisted the progress by not having so many people on it.
Yeah, and that also
the maths just makes sense, Mickey.
Yeah, and it's a planned event then, right? Because I mean, you wouldn't start this 50 years ago. That's stupid. But if you
there'd be no one left.
But if you snuff out maybe the intellectual elite, the 10 to 20 years leading up to something like this, it'll be a lot harder to respond to, and people might not make all the connections, because there are a lot of people that, because again, this is a blood disorder. A lot of people that studied HIV/AIDS were
that's right.
Killed. Right, flu, you were killed. Ebola, like another blood disorder, sort of, in a way, were killed. So this is the event, I want to say now, that will postpone the awareness cascade, because it will also, and this is maybe going into the metaphysical now, it'll lower the frequency of the planet, I think, because of the fear and uncertainty and panic, certainly in some areas where the people bought toilet paper for some reason.
They're buying toilet paper again, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I ordered toilet paper online and from a bamboo company, so that's what I'm doing. Yeah. So it's anyway. But I'm privileged. I can, right? I have access to all that stuff. I know people can't, in the world. So we're lucky. But the metaphysical. So we are lowering the frequency of the planet. In order for the awareness cascades to occur, in my opinion, a number of conditions need to be fulfilled. We can't be at a very low frequency, meaning we can't be too bound to the gross matter we inhabit. But that's being lowered, so our frequency is coming down. It was I guess it was high-ish or higher, and it's been middling about, but now it's dropped. And then of course the magical number of 7.76 billion that we worked out with our little mathematical formula.
We were striving towards that perfect number, and now we're backpedaling again.
And the thing is, we mentioned this, and I think I want to say show number 200 maybe is when we brought the formula in. I gotta double check. So 5-6 years ago, about 5-6 years ago, we predicted this event. An event like this that would have this kind of impact in order for the awareness cascade not to happen. And now I know it sounds nuts. I get it. But I'm more convinced than ever that this may very well be the event. Like I said, we will never find out. Unless we've got years and years of hindsight here, how many people have actually passed away from this, or how many people were negatively affected. The knock-on effects, and how many people passed away because they simply couldn't be helped. Not because they contracted the virus, Dave, but because they had a heart attack or they had an accident, and emergency personnel simply wasn't there to respond to help them, right? In fact, one of the things they said in this report, following around the New York first responders, they're quitting much sooner than they would have in the past. So what I mean by that is, let's say someone is not responsive. Whatever, it might have been a heart attack, stroke, whatever it might be. Yeah, well, they will try. I mean, and then if it takes too long, let's call it.
That's exactly right. And otherwise, they might have had someone on that person for a while, half an hour or something. You're completely right. It's turning into, in this level of entry into hospital, like not casualty rates. Oh yeah, it's not fatalities, it's casualty rates. So they're so high that it becomes like a military hospital.
Yeah.
You're going to have a pile of people that you need to get to and put some more resources on the heavy hitters, but that's what triage is all about. You've got to say, who can I attend to right now? Okay, they're not going to make it. Doesn't matter. Move on next.
Yeah.
It sounds heartless, yeah, but it's not. It's all we have.
It's not heartless because you've got X amount of resources and you've got Y amount of need, and if the two were the same, beautiful, right? But if as much need as resource, fantastic.
But if you're putting all your effort on one person, and you've got 3 people that are going to die because you're doing this person has less priority.
Correct. So they're making a call, and I can help these 3 young people. Whereas this older person probably has less of a chance of surviving. That's the call, right?
Yeah.
Or something else. The thing is this, though, and this is really something that is becoming more and more apparent with mass graves, bodies stored in refrigerated containers, etc. It is the indigent, it's the disenfranchised, it's the poor that are dying first. It's the elderly that are dying first. And if you were a follower of eugenics, and if you said that this, eugenics is a good thing, then all of this that you're seeing here, you would consider to be a good thing, because you're getting rid of the burden on society. That's the view of the eugenicists, right? And it's a very harsh and heartless view, very utilitarian as well. And he's very much had this view of the world, right? If you don't produce, then what good are you to me? And what we're seeing here, a lot of again. Who can actually do the social distancing? Who can be at home? Who's got reserves at home to not leave the house for a week or 2 or a month or 6 months? Who are these people? Well, these are people that are well-to-do. These are people that are okay anyway. If you live in the street, if you're elderly and you have just enough pension to get your weekly groceries, if you're living in the street, you've got a mental illness. If you're living in a slum, right, with millions of other people, closely squashed together. And if your work depends on you going to work every day, laborers or unskilled or even retail, or like all the people that are in jobs that require you to go to a place to work and earn money, and if you haven't got any social security, no social network, no social safety net, if you have none of these things, then how are you going to survive this? How could you possibly survive this? And nobody is going to count these people because they're homeless or they're living in slums or whatever. I mean, most of these people, in my opinion, that's my opinion only, will never be counted, right? But it's solving a problem, right? And you have to look at this really from the elite's point of view. And I have this conversation all the time with people, Dave. Oh, but the government would never do this.
Oh,
people
yeah, right.
do this. And the thing is, these people are declaring war on other people, right? Governments declare war all the time. It happens. Well, if you do that, 2 things happen. One, you're condemning people in whatever country you declared war on to death. A certain amount of people will die because you declared war, right? That will happen. But you will also kill a certain number of your own people. All right? Not directly, but indirectly by sending them in harm's way. That's what happens in war. War is not, let's help everybody sing Kumbaya. No, you go and you shoot people and they shoot back, right? And that's what happened. Iraq. Again, the numbers are uncertain. Between 300,000 and 1 million civilians in Iraq were killed. I think it's 4,000 or 5,000 servicemen from the Allies, and tens of thousands of severely injured and incapacitated. And forget about the PTSD. We don't know that number, and the subsequent suicides and the homelessness that some of these veterans faced when they came home because they couldn't cope to be in society anymore. So the knock-on effects are staggering. I mean, millions of people are affected in an extremely negative way by a war. And you're telling me that the elite, and forget about the government here for a second, right? Because they come and go. I'm talking about the elite that is both hidden and visible. The elite that's visible, these are the people that are super rich. You don't really see much from the news, but they're there, right? And then you've got the hidden elite, and this is where Dave and I have the, I guess this is the invisible elite. You don't see them, you can't see them, you can only see their fingers throughout history on events.
Yeah.
right? All these things that are being orchestrated, steering in one direction, and it doesn't always work out for them. Make no mistake, right? It doesn't always work out because there aren't that many, but they've been here a long time. They're extremely powerful. They're extremely rich, obviously, and they are very subtle. And and because they have been at it for such a long time, they're good at it. But they're not perfect, and it doesn't always work out. And we do have a fighting chance. But in situations like this, you look at all the problems that are being solved here across the world with this pandemic, right? When I say problems being solved, I'm only being half sarcastic because there's some, real world problems that we're facing the first world. We discussed this, the aging population. The north of Italy, and I hate to say this, they don't have much of an aging population problem anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Because the aging population in this one area, not Lombardy, I forget now, but in the north, the reports that came out of that said an entire generation had been wiped out.
That's
in
right.
that particular province, right? Not all of Italy, but in that particular province. But it's ongoing. It's not stopping. It's not abating. Again, some countries seem to show good signs, right? There are now, I think, 3 or 4 countries which are in the green. Four in the green and 1 gray, which means they seem to be done with it. There's Saint Lucia, Greenland, St. Barth, and Yemen, of all places. They seem to be, disease-free. But all the other countries, we talked about the 1,000 club, Dave, do you remember? Then we talked about the 10,000 club.
The 10,000 club. We're going to get a million club tomorrow in the US.
Well, yeah. They're right now at 960,000. And if the trend is anything like it, then tomorrow it'll be 1 million just in the United States. We've already, and it'll actually be 3 million globally at that point. Yes, people have gotten better. These numbers are encouraging. So it says here 1 million cases had an outcome, and 840,000 got better, and 200,000 passed away. So globally, 200,000 people have passed away from this. Okay, and that now has leveled out at about 20%. I think thereabouts is where we're going to end up. But how many people will get infected? If we got 3 million people infected, right? That means 600,000 people will die. If you look at the numbers. Just the raw numbers.
That's right.
And that's where we are today. And there's no peak. I don't think the peak has been reached in some of these countries.
No, and any of the countries.
Yeah, I'd like to understand how they think that is a peak. Okay, if the infections go down significantly, fair enough, right? And if it stays down, like it has in Australia, again, touch wood, right? Where we have like 0.5 or even not even that of a % of increased cases, that's great. Just to give you a quick idea, our numbers in Australia at the moment, and I understand people believe that this isn't actually happening. Now, I'm telling you, it is happening because we have people that I know personally in the medical field, both here and overseas, and it's happening. Okay, I'm not saying it's this or it's that, but something is happening and people are dying. So it's not a hoax. Right, I know people believe it might be. Just
start with that. It's not a hoax.
It's not a hoax, and then whatever it is, we call it this virus here, but the way it works and how it works, we still haven't figured out, right? Anyway, our numbers altogether, we get 6,700 infections, right, and 83 people have passed away, and 5,500 have gotten better, 1,100 active cases, and we've got 42 people in a serious or critical condition, and we've administered just shy of 500,000 tests here in Australia. That's
right.
That's pretty good, actually. To be honest.
It's not bad.
One of my friends, who's a frontline worker, told me that this is, and he's a clinical psychologist, but all people with any kind of medical training are now being called upon. So he's actually in there doing his thing, and he said the swab. It's a fairly long a Q-tip, if you will, right? And it goes all the way into your nose until it hits the back of your throat.
That's right.
So it's not something
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, good thing we can do it, but again, he is and he's taking it very seriously. Normally we go for bike rides just to make you understand the severity of the situation. He and I and another friend, we go for bike rides down in Wollongong or elsewhere. 20, 30 kilometers, nothing major. But he said, no, I can't do them right now. Oh, okay, why? Well, because I don't want to overburden the hospital system in case I have an accident.
That's right.
So this is a frontline worker who doesn't go for a bike ride, with his friends, on the off chance that he might have an accident, or one of us might have an accident, and then we're just adding a number to a bed in the hospital.
Which they can't afford. That's right.
No, which yeah. So that's the thinking on the front line. Okay, it's a real thing. And again, I'm not saying it's this. I'm not saying it's that. But something is clearly happening, and it's hurting everybody. Sorry, I've been having a bit of a soapbox moment.
You've had a great time there. What I wanted to do, I want to just go through some things here. There's some articles that I've picked up, and I won't cover all of them, but there is rhetoric around the world and posturing from all of the different countries, and certainly the right-wing side is more prevalent and has a louder voice for accusing China of not behaving themselves within actually negligence is what they're accusing them of. So they're saying that if they'd told us sooner, if they'd allowed the other countries to help them and being on site, possibly the information might have been better. And not one country in the world believes China's figures. No one does. And the WHO is saying, don't politicize this. That's when it was political. And now it's all about, there's some people I think in the US trying to sue the CCP for trillions. There's a class action. And at the same time, Wuhan opened and now has closed down again. And the Chinese authorities are saying, the latest wildlife trade outrage is mind-bogglingly reckless. They're saying, don't you dare talk about us eating any creature we can find and trading them at these markets. That's our business, not yours. Bugger off. And look, I don't think we in South America they eat guinea pigs. Here we have them as pets. We eat chickens, whereas they don't. You know what I mean? I think I have a hard endangered animal. That's when I have a hard time. But I don't think we should criticize anybody. We've emptied the sea of pretty much all the life that we possibly can. Farming is fine if you farm to eat, but if you just take it out of the wild, and just because we don't go on the sea bottom to see the effect of what we're having, like our actions, is having on the ecosystem, then and look, in the end, to be completely honest, I think we're seeing a lot of war posturing and aggravated verbiage. So the right wing in Australia is saying and agreeing with the US that they should be held responsible, and China, if they don't pony up with the cash to pay for this disaster on a world scale, then they're going to seize their assets in this country. They're going to do the same in the US and say, you know what, I don't care whether you bought it, leased it, whatever it is, we're taking it back, and good luck with that. The whole discussion that we had last night, Mackie, was interesting about the way this is going to change. And you and I have already spoken about this, but the audience might be interested in hearing that the changing of this allied business continuity, supply chain agreements that are probably going to rise up of this, how the borders are going to slowly reopen with countries that you've got your green pass and you can travel between. So if you're not infected and that country isn't infected out neither country, then we can start commuting between the two. All of those kinds of things look like the future that we haven't even got to yet. So the 17 bodies, remember last week, the 17 bodies that were found in the nursing home because they didn't know what to do with them. Remember that? Yeah. So an anonymous tip led to the discovery of those 17 bodies. Another news article here, hundreds of Australians evacuated from Cambodia. They had to charter their own flight. The government wouldn't help them. Then we had the 60% of those passengers from Antarctica cruise that were tested positive, entered Australia, and our numbers didn't go up as a result of those people coming back. Back to I saw a really funny clip, Mickey, on Facebook. It's a college humor sketch, and there's a lady who's come back in time to meet herself and discuss the future of 2020 and what it's going to. Like, she comes back in January. It's hilarious, I have to tell you. Try and find it. But okay. A couple of gags that they do is the Australian bushfires, and she's American, so you can see that it's in the media. She goes, "Oh, those bushfires are really a thing." She goes, "What? Oh, yeah, not so much. What could be worse than the bushfires?" Oh, I can't tell you the future. What do you know? But you want to get out of the stock market. Let's just... Oh, and buy Zoom stock. You want to buy Zoom.
Oh, no, I'm still going for B-days, man. If you go for B-day, that's what you need. That's stock. Buy stocks and B-days.
B-days. Yeah, that's right. But that whole thing, but the story to do with the bushfires here is that our New South Wales farmers still haven't received any funding. And not even the bushfire loans have been approved yet since January.
Really?
Yeah, nothing.
Actually, I saw that. Where's the money? It said, right?
That's right. Where's the money? Yeah, that's right.
Wow. And there are two things I got to say here, and one was just posted by Solaris, or a little bit earlier maybe.
Yeah.
One, I'm going to make a call here, Dave. My call is Andrew Cuomo, right? He's going to be president. That's the call I'm making right here, right now.
Wow.
Maybe not next election, but eventually Cuomo is going to run for president, and he's going to be president. He's the only guy, it seems,
that cares.
That's getting it. Right now, I watched the newscast earlier and picked up something. I'll send you a link to. I'll send you a link to this, and I'll copy it into the chat as well. Have a look at this, and tell me if that's not. It doesn't. Oh, here we go. And you tell me then later. The other thing I want to quickly say here, and this is again something that Solaris just posted. This is a patent, and the patent is amazing. And I'm actually here at the patentscope.wipo.int site. So this is actually where the patent data is held. So I did a very quick search. Interesting enough, this is patent number W02020060606. So the last number is 060606, right? And it's cryptocurrency system using body activity data. And the abstract reads like this: human body activity associated with a task provided to a user may be used in a mining process of a cryptocurrency system. A server may provide a task to a device of the user which is communicatively coupled to the server. A sensor communicatively coupled to or compromised in the device of the user may sense body activity of the user. Body activity data may be generated based on the sensed body activity of the user. The cryptocurrency system communicatively coupled to the device of the user may verify if the body activity data satisfies one or more conditions set by the cryptocurrency system and award cryptocurrency to the user whose body activity data is verified. Again, the patent number was 0606.
Okay, so what activity would decline the person's ownership of cryptocurrency?
I don't know.
Death?
Possibly. I mean, I haven't read the whole thing, right? But it's actually a Microsoft license. Just to let you know.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
It's a Microsoft patent.
Well, that sounds like a New World Order thing, Mackie. Like we told you you're not allowed to do that thing. Post on Facebook.
But why would you see this? Okay, so we all used to think we get shipped, right? And everybody talked about the mark of the beast.
Yeah,
and, you don't. Yeah, but the thing is this: the number of the beast was 600. You reckon if those who know reckon the number of the beast. I mean, I'm not religious, but I know my Bible really well. And whosoever knows reckon the number of the beast. And the number of the beast is 666.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and the patent number here is 060606.
Oh my goodness!
And it is more than chipping. Your body is integrated into the entire system.
You're probably able to recognize the human touching it.
Well,
by touching it.
Yeah. So you're in the system. Mm-hmm. You're part of the machine in all the worst ways, I guess. Right? So forget cash currency, right? Again, another benefit to the elite. Cash currency is on the way out, right? Gone.
Yep.
Right?
Digitize everything.
100%. right? And I keep see the things keep rolling in your mind all the time. They roll and roll and roll. It keeps going in your mind. It's just nuts. It is. We are in a world that is so off kilter. It is not even funny anymore.
We're accelerating away from that point that we thought was the right place to be. So, Meki, I just want to really quickly get some things out here. Chinese researcher accused of trying to smuggle vials of biological materials out of US hidden in a sock. An affidavit from an FBI agent says, I won't mention the person's name, was detained in Boston airport after vials containing a brown liquid were found in his checked luggage. The doctoral student, who had been doing research at Beth Israel Hospital, faces charges of making false, fictitious, and fraudulent statements to US agents. So he lied about what they'd found. He said 21 wrapped vials containing a brown liquid that appeared to be biological material. So he was taking that to China. That's one of the stories. This is the US charges 3 researchers, 3 of them, with lying about links to China. And this was the US has charged a Harvard professor and 2 Chinese researchers based in Boston with assisting the Chinese government. And don't want to read the rest of that, but you can find that this was a cancer researcher, was arrested in Boston Logan International Airport. Oh, that's the 21 vials. So that's where I found the second story. But the first story was that they were working for and paid for and sponsored by the nation state, but working in the US. Remember that Cambodian airstrip that I spoke about?
Yeah.
Finally found the satellite imaging for it, and it's deleted. It's deleted for the most part on Google Earth and Google Maps. But I found it on another site. So just trying to say, and then I found some news stories with drone footage, and there's an image on the screen. You can actually catch this afterwards, Meki, and I'll see the links. Also, the drone that was as soon as in Cambodia when they decided to build this airport, suddenly the Chinese military were flying drones around, and one of them crashed. It might have been brought down. The second last story is coronavirus. US wants to enter Wuhan virology lab, and Trump questions China death toll. So the US is saying we want to go in there and get some samples and do some DNA testing on what you've got in your lab and what was released to the public, because they reckon that they had a version of it, and maybe it might very well have been intentionally.
No chance.
There's no chance to get in that lab. They absolutely, completely agree. Yeah. It's not going to happen. Yeah, that's right. But
anyway.
what I'm seeing here is that once again, aggravated discussion, the posturing, the offensive use of words. So Trump insists White House briefing that China's death toll is higher. That's basically just saying to China, you're lying. Where they say that they're still asking the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, to allow experts to get into that lab. So they're basically saying we're not trusting you, but it's done in a way that the media can just claim that it was their writer and it doesn't matter. China cancels coronavirus clinical trials due to shortage of patients.
Yeah, I saw that.
Hilarious. One thing, Nick, in the meme of the week that it's already flashed past while you were soapboxing, and I really enjoyed that part. I saw someone had written 84 at the end of COVID-19 to make it COVID 1984.
Really?
As a really clever statement that this virus is once again allowing people not to miss a great opportunity and put in place laws and controls and orchestrating a future that they would not have had the opportunity to make otherwise.
Yeah.
It's like 9/11. Meki, you watch the news, like I said this before, right? You watch the news of, I forget the guy's name on the American Today show. And you watch him the day before and everything's great. All the people are almost like they're on a drug of happiness because it's not bad. Nothing's bad. From that point forward, every one of the newsreaders has just got this is the situation now.
Yeah.
And since then, Emeki, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Almost, it's 19 years, right? And we still haven't returned back to the happy times pre 9/11.
But you never.
We're not going to get back
generations.
there. Yeah,
it
that's
takes generations to go to a pre-event normality,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the severity, of course. But see, the problem here is that the changes were written into law. Dave. Any traumatizing event will stay with generations, and even the younger generations are the one that that comes next because they're being told about it, and then it'll sort of fade away. But once you write something into law, and it becomes a constitutional part of where you are,
there it is.
And there's certain that's. I mean, have you ever seen any laws being repealed en masse? Can you imagine the FBI being dismantled? Same with the Office of Homeland Security. Not going to happen, right?
Yeah. Imagine one day, like the government goes, we haven't found anything interesting since we've been watching you for the last 30 years. We're going to turn off. We're going to delete the NSA. Don't need it anymore. The world's a much better place now.
Yeah.
And that's never going to happen.
Never. Not ever.
That's probably that's the funniest thing I've heard in a long time.
By the same token, though, Dave, and I know we're getting close to the end of the hour, but by the same token, this is the thing. Nothing lasts forever. If you're a student of history, then you understand that empires rose to great power and to great prominence in the world. Many, many empires, right? All over the world. Some we don't even know existed. None. Yeah, perpetual war. But that's what we are, 1984. It's the perpetual war. It's a crazy thing. But nothing lasts forever, and we cannot allow the fear and all that to persist because it won't. It will not. Our society, our civilization will disappear at some point. It'll morph into something else, or it'll disappear altogether. And then people find it hard to believe. If you told people in the 19th and early 20th century that the British Empire would fade into insignificance from an empire perspective,
they would still be laughing.
They'd be laughing.
Yeah.
They'd be laughing out of the house. The
Not
Russian
a
Empire,
chance.
same thing. Not a chance, and not ever. What are you talking about? You're crazy. You are crazy. But it happened. The Soviet Union, the most monolithic governmental complex you would ever encounter. Gone overnight. Just packed up and went away, right? And it's the same with, we're seeing structures being dismantled now in front of our eyes, which have been around for a long, long time. And make no mistake, once we come out of this, a lot of the things that you're used to, they're going to be gone. They won't exist anymore. Our way of life has now changed.
If we emerged into like that Star Trek world, that wouldn't be terrible.
If it was run by the right people.
That's never going to happen.
Yeah, I know, right? So what's the problem with anything? People are the problem. That's the problem. People.
Yeah, one of the memes of the week, Mackie, said that this has changed our normality, but when we emerge from this, like the normality that was the problem, it was the problem. It was normality that was the problem. What we created was the problem, and we all lived within it. It was the game,
So you don't know any better, and even if you know any better, how do you change it? The banking system, the governmental system, the fiat currency system, all of these things that are in place, you're born into.
Fractional
and you look at
lending.
it, and you go, yeah. Oh, there's music.
Yeah.
It's insanity to live like this. Don't go away, everybody. We're going to come back. There's going to be a short break. Donate if you can. This is Listener Fun Radio, right, Dave?
Yes, it is. Let's see in a minute.
Hello and welcome back to Dave and Becky's Shining Side Out. How are we all doing? We're going to talk about ancient tech today, show number 423, 320 and 400 if I'm not mistaken. We've just spent the first part of our show discussing current affairs, the situation with the coronavirus, etc., but also the further and far-reaching consequences and outcomes we can expect once this is at an end. And there's no end in sight quite yet. Dave, ancient tech. It's important that we talk about this because again, it all feeds into what's happening all over the world, and how we deal with it. And the current situation, as we said earlier, is probably a created event by the hidden elite. I'm not naming any nation states here at all, to reduce our numbers. And this has happened in the past many times, in my opinion, where civilization has risen and fallen to complete anonymity and complete amnesia. So we have no memory of some of these civilizations. Some live in legends like Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu. We talk about the Golden Age, Hyperborea. We talk about all these wonderful things, and even the king and god lists of the Egyptians and Sumerians. Mm-hmm. But we dismiss it. It's myth. It's not real. We just okay, whatever. But these events have happened before. I'm hoping this is not an event like this. I don't think it's an event like this. I could be wrong, but I don't think it is. Not a complete wipeout. But certainly we are in trouble, in my opinion. But we discussed at length, some of the ancient texts last time, and some of the remnants as well that we may exist. But there's more textual evidence for ancient high cultures, Dave. And we will have a lot more detail. But what are some of these anyway?
And we're talking about the odd ancient tech and artifacts?
Vimanas? Could be.
Let me just check.
Ancient Indian text?
Ah, yes. Yeah, right. Okay, yep. I know where I am now. Because the show notes are extensive, everyone, just to let you know. Yeah. And rightly so, too, because there's a lot of really good meaty stuff here. So, the Vimanas, they are machines that were described in the ancient Atrahasis epic. And these machines were cylindrical, tapering at the top and slightly at the bottom. And they had multiple levels, and they were able to fly about. These were made of metal, and it's something that we haven't been able to totally understand in this civilization, this level of technical civilization that we're currently at. But as Mickey and I talked about last week, that it may very well have been a tech that we've left behind, that we've moved on from, that something that was maybe available in the 20s. And I'm looking at Mickey's photo like I'm trying to get his attention. At the World Expo, Mickey, that you could only imagine may not have come to pass. So anti-gravity or something like that may very well be a lot easier than we've been led to believe. And that, how these Vimanas got around, what their fuel was, we don't know. There's a sectional view of one that's been created through the descriptions of them in the text. It's trying to work out how it works. But, Meki, we see the same style of device in the Aztec and Mayan cultures, in glyphs, where there's a person inside something that appears to have some kind of thrust and, controls and, levers and foot pedals and a whole bunch of... That's technical stuff that they could not have ever visualized.
Well, look, yeah, absolutely.
There isn't a point in the Aztec and Mayans culture, from our current lockstep understanding scientifically, that would have allowed them to depict something such as those depictions, or, for that matter, the stories in the olden days, in the Atrahasis epics, that talked about the flying machines. Because unless they saw them, unless they were actually there, unless, of course, they were part of their culture, unless, of course, aliens did share it, or they did get to this technical superiority once again before us. And Meki and I have talked about this for quite some time and suggested there might be an undulating, say 10,000 year cycle of that's all it takes to get to tech. From farming.
Look,
you're in farming 100%. And 10,000 years later you've got tech again, but you get wiped out.
100%. And look, the Mahabharata is quite descriptive in its elucidations around these Vimana, but also warfare. So the Vimanas, there's like 20 different ones. We're going to have some more detail much later on in the text when we talk about India and China specifically as cultural. Mm-hmm. What would you call them? Bottles. Message in a bottle. I think China and India are the message in a bottle from a previous time. That's what I think happened, right? Interesting, Oppenheimer, the father of the American rocket program, and by extension also the one of the main contributors when it came to the Manhattan Project.
That's right.
He actually quoted from the Mahabharata, and he said, "I've become death, destroyer of worlds," when they conducted the first atomic test.
Isn't that interesting that he used that specific quote from that specific
100%
writing? Because
100%.
What was written in there, Maggie?
Well, this is interesting. Again, I'm quoting here directly from the Mahabharata. Gurkha, flying in his swift and powerful Vimana, hurled against the three cities of the Vrishis and Andakas a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and fire, as brilliant as 10,000 suns, rose in all its splendor. It was the unknown weapon, the Iron Thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and Andakas.
That's it. That describes a nuclear weapon right there.
Yeah, well, sounds like it, right?
Yeah.
A high energy weapon of some sort, certainly. I mean, it's just, and again, this is thousands of years ago, and that's when it was written down. It's referring to an event that even was ancient by the time it was written down. Right? We can't forget that. Similar to the Sumerian text, they're referring to events that happened well before they were written down.
That's right.
Right. So yes, they are 5,000-6,000 years old, these writings, but they wrote something down that was old then. Right. This is really the key thing to understand, because
finally I've got a pen.
A good pen.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
You might have strived, you might have had an idea in your head for a long time, but you didn't have any way to write it down. Extraordinary that it should be documented in such a way. Yeah,
and languages die if the people that speak them die.
Yeah.
And we today, and we made this point last time, today we have so many ancient languages written that we simply cannot decipher, because we don't have a key, like the Rosetta Stone for hieroglyphics, right? We had a key there. We don't have that key, and we're trying, but we just don't know. A lot of the South American languages completely elude us. Others as well. If you look at the Göbekli Tepe writings or carvings, more or less,
not a chance.
It's religious. It's religious, Dave.
It's a place of ceremony, Becky. That's what it is.
Well, what a lot of crop.
So look, there's other references to the same mechanisms and destruction. We talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. That's the destruction by fire from the sky. Remember, don't turn around, don't look back, don't look at it, and it's turning into a pillar of salt. Have you seen what happens to people who are too close and all our atoms become a permanent shadow on the wall?
Yeah.
That's what I think that's describing. There's the destruction of the walls of Jericho by sound, and the horns played, making the walls came down. Engineer Joseph F. Bloomrich built Ezekiel's wheels within Wheels vehicle and described as described in the Bible, and he patented it. I think there's an extra symbol in there.
He was a NASA engineer.
Yeah. So if you don't know what ended up as a result of that, that is a wheel that can go forward and sideways at the same time. So they've got the ability that's the end result. But he built the wheels within wheels. Remember the description of a device where there's wheels within wheels. Have you seen anything, Mackie, in your whole life that you could describe like that?
No, the only thing recently in a Star Wars movie, you know, the little robot?
Yeah,
that can go any which way.
That's right.
Like he's got a ball, so it's essentially it's a ball. But if you've got this ball covered slightly, then it would look like these wheels can go any which direction, right? So clearly these are wheels within wheels. So this tech now that we are, I guess, sort of rediscovering.
So for me, wheels within wheels. You know, like the Mayan calendar has wheels within wheels in the way that it counts with, and you know, technical Lego. You can't really make it, but you can make something very similar. You know. They didn't, at the time that was described, they didn't have a gearbox. You know, they didn't have a device that did this. They didn't have a wheel that could turn in different directions without turning the wheel. You could make you go somewhere else. What about the Ark of the Covenant? Was built and turned out to produce a charge. The two big gold wing-shaped structures on top sort of drew energy from nowhere.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah, in fact, you should go to the website. It's called www.hutchinsoneffect.ca. Yeah. So if you want to see it, www.hutchinsoneffect.ca.
I'm going to pop that into the chat room, Mackie. There you go.
Please do. And they did. They built it. And in fact, you know, don't touch it. That's what it said in the Bible. Because you die. Well, you'll be electrocuted. And some people believe that the Act of the Covenant was a two-way radio as well. A way to communicate. Questions with whom? Well, you'd say God, right?
Yeah.
Okay. God needs a radio, huh? How about that?
Now, I've heard, Mackie, that people have described the dimensions of the exterior of the Ark of the Covenant happening to match that of the internal dimensions of the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber. Correct. Yeah.
That is. So yes. So, and you have to understand that the Jews share a common history with the Egyptians, because obviously the Jewish people for a long time were in bondage, and then Moses obviously got them out, let my people go, and all that with the Pharaoh. So the answer is yes, and I think that this might have been one of the artifacts they might have smuggled out or taken. I mean, why the pursuit of the Israelites by the Pharaoh, the destruction of the Pharaoh's army in the Red Sea, you know, the one that parted.
Yes.
And all these stories that we hear about now, it sounds fantastical or magical, or you know, like a miracle from God or whatever. Sufficiently advanced technology can do that, can do all of that, right? I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but static electricity. If you comb your hair, now I did as a child, I did this. I used to love science. I still love science. But you comb your hair, there's static electricity in your comb. Okay, then you turn on your tap. And you hold your comb, which is now statically charged, next to the stream of water coming down. You know what happens? The water stream bends out of its way.
Yeah, wow.
It doesn't touch it, but the static electricity pushes the water aside. Try it at home. It's easy to do. Just comb your hair. Make sure that, or even a brush, right? And make sure there's a static charge in there, and you hold it next to the water stream. The water stream will bend to one side. And on scale, if you do it, or at scale, then you could potentially bend away water, create a path through a large body of water, if that was your desire. For example, I'm just spitballing here, right?
Well, I've got another example, Mackie. The Russian fighter jets were using ionic displacement on their front control surfaces of their planes in order to try to go faster. Now, they wouldn't have continued using it if it didn't work.
Yeah. There you go.
See, exactly it's all about the proof, Mackie. That's what it is.
Well, yeah. Does it work? Yes, it works. Okay.
Yeah, we won't. But see, I wonder how you would do the same thing in a submarine for the USOs. So there's a lot of things to move out of the way, and it weighs a lot. So there must be something that would have an advantage in some way. Megalithic structures is another thing, Mackie, that hangs around on the planet that we can touch and feel. It's there.
Yeah, throughout the world, everywhere. Megalithic. In fact, look, if you take, and there's some really creative people on Facebook and online in general, go ahead and check out what they've done. They've put together photo collages comparing sites to other sites. I mean, what all they're doing is they're comparing pictures, right? That's all. I mean, they're not editing them, they're not changing them. They're just here's one picture, here's another picture from somewhere else, and you will find massive similarities in the way these things are constructed. First of all, yes, megalithic. So they're using huge stone blocks to build, but also at different angles, funny angles. And why build with these massive stones in the first place, right? What's the point? Stonehenge, right? The underwater roads off the coast of Florida.
Bimini roads,
Bimini Road, yeah. Japan,
what about Adams Bridge, Mickey? That had a road that's now underwater, yeah.
Oh, that I think so. I think it's a natural formation which was then built upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think but if you look at again, it really helps to look at a map of the world, because this would be one of the largest constructions in the world. You would be able to see it from space, like the Chinese, like the Wall of China, like same thing. Well, not the same thing, but just as impressive. And you ask yourself, why did these people work in these massive stones? I mean, again. Stonehenge, okay, fair enough. That may have been an astronomical thing, and might have been, or even worship related. But again, massive stones, and we don't really give a lot of credence to these people of having the technology to move them. But they moved them. They did. Dave, the temple platform at Baalbek. It's one of our most favorite example. You have to see a picture of it to actually fully appreciate. What you look at.
The foundation stones are so super massive that there are 30 people across.
Yeah, it's huge. And now we found, it says here in the show notes, one unfortunate quarry. I think there's 2 or 3.
There was 2 or 3, that's right, yeah.
So that means there was a tools down event at some point. And if you look at the building of it, so you see the bottom of it, and these stones aren't at the bottom, by the way. They're actually up a story or two, right? So you look at the ancient structure, which is the platform, in my opinion. It looks a lot older than the structure on top of it, which is the Roman
small stones that the Romans did that were easily transportable and movable with our scale.
Absolutely, but it's impressive still. Don't get me wrong. The Temple of Jupiter was very impressive. I mean, for its time, would have been. Again, you have to ask yourself, why build it there in the middle of nowhere? Well, there was a platform there. It makes sense. Anyway, then there's another building phase. Of more recent times, probably medieval Arab, a construction like a fort, and you can see really fairly rough stones put together, nowhere near the elegance of the Roman construction, and certainly none of the impressive, megalithic blocks that were used in the original construction there. So there are 3 building phases, and if you look at, you don't have to be anything. You don't have to be university trained just to look at something and go, "Hey, I can see something here."
A child can see the difference in the 3 different styles of building. Absolutely.
Yeah. Same with the pyramids, the Sphinx, of course. The pyramids, a lot of researchers think that the platforms, the pyramids were built upon are much older than the pyramids themselves, probably contemporary with the Sphinx. But the pyramids themselves also, it's hard to date, and the only way they could date it was by something that was found inside. They found a cartouche inside the Great Pyramid, which misspelled the pharaoh's name Khufu.
Yeah, so it's highly dubious, yeah.
No, it's super dubious. The guy that was there, he was struggling professionally. He needed some big breakthrough to make a name for himself, maybe get some funding or whatever. And this is back in the 19th century, by the way, not the 20th. And it is widely believed that he copied the cartouche from a book, which was a well-known book, but it actually had misprinted it as well. So the book misprinted the pharaoh's name.
And he copied the misprinting, that's right.
Correct. So, highly dubious, the age of the pyramids, the age of the Sphinx. We know the Sphinx, and I want to say this very clearly, right? This is not conspiracy craziness. We know the Sphinx is older than 10,000 years.
That's right.
Oh, you can't say that. Yeah, I can, because Robert Schoch, who was a Harvard-trained geologist, did. And I watched the debate he had with Max Lehner and Zahi Hawass he was actually in charge of the Egyptian antiquities in Egypt. And they asked, well, where's the contemporary evidence showing me anything else going here? And Robert Schoch says, it's geology, dude. This is water weathering. This is not wind and sand, it's water weathering. And the last time there was any kind of precipitation that would allow for that kind of thing, that was 10,000 years ago.
That's right.
Oh, sorry, 10,000 BC.
12,500 years ago, yeah.
12,500 years ago, thereabouts, right? Again, it's a bit loose around, give or take 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's old. The Egyptians didn't build it. If you look at the body, and I have to spend a little bit of time here. If you look at the body of the Sphinx,
yeah,
right? It's the body of a lion, arguably, or large cat. Doesn't have to be a lion, but it's a large cat, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the head of this particular Sphinx is completely disproportionate to the rest of its body.
It's about a third the size it should be. Yeah,
it's tiny. It's tiny little head on it's ridiculous, and everything else is proportionate though in this cat body.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that anybody who would actually spend the time and effort to build something like this would have such a tiny head.
That's correct.
And every representation you see, your tourist knickknacks,
mm-hmm.
and any paintings, even the Egyptians themselves, right? They painted the Sphinx anatomically correct with an appropriately sized head. The original is not. So it was recarved. I have a very strong opinion on this, and I believe absolutely, without shadow of a doubt, that this was recarved, probably from a lion's head to a pharaoh's head.
Absolutely agree. I can't agree any more than I'm agreeing.
And you can up and down. I mean, you have to be. You have to be a complete moron not to see it. So
Meki, I'm going to also state that my personal belief is that the Egyptians and hate me. All the Egyptians in the world can hate me on their collectively if they like, but I'm under the impression, and it's my belief that they just turned up where these things were, and when questioned, hey, did you guys build those by the first visitor? And they just lied and said, yep. And you go, well, have you done any recently? Because I look really old. Oh, no. See, we forgot how to do it.
Yeah. A lot of other cultures don't display that same level of, plagiarism.
Yeah.
Because they will tell you straight up, no, we nothing to do with us. We didn't build this.
That's
we
right.
Don't know how to build this.
Exactly.
Not a clue in the world.
So you look in South America, Meki. I've got some megalithic structure examples going around the slide deck. When you look at the just how incredible their ability to almost soften stone to putty and use it in that state, that it's visible around the world at around about the same theoretical date, and then since then we've not remembered how to do it. Even scoop marks, Meki. Yeah. Scoop marks on solid stone that looks like it was soft when they did it.
There's a story, I think I've related this to you guys at some other point, but Charles Berlitz, who wrote Mysteries of Forgotten Worlds, the Bermuda Triangle, etc., he quotes a story of Major Fawcett. He was an avid explorer of the Amazon. And one of the stories that he brought back from the Amazon, and then subsequently actually disappeared in the Amazon. So Fawcett just completely up and vanished on one of his expeditions, looking for these ancient cities and so forth. But he related a story of running through a field with sort of succulent type plants, like thick-leaved cacti of some sort. And when he had run through it, he noticed that his riding spurs had melted away. There's another story of his where locals told him about this. A bird would fly somewhere and get a leaf, and then rub the leaf on a stone wall, right? Rub it, and all these birds would make their nests in there, like a cuckoo might make a nest in a tree. So they would sort of make a hole into this rock, but only after they had rubbed the stone with this leaf, suggesting that some chemical compound in that leaf might soften stone.
Yeah, wow. Right?
So again, I have the books here. I'll see if I can find the pages, but it's fascinating stories, right?
So, Puma Punku, Meki, where in South America, if you don't know, and there's a number of places around South America, also Bolivia, and Peru, where they built structures using stone, but they carved out across the joint the letter H or an I, the capital I, like a Roman numeral I, and then filled it with metal to as a metal clamp style of holding two large blocks together. The next one on top, and it was flush with the surface, and the next one on top would not interfere with it and it would keep it in place. Given that the stonework isn't square blocks or oblong blocks, that each block is individually tailored for that position in the wall, with curved edges and some extraordinary work that I still find it bamboozling to me. I can't get my head around why you would do it.
They believe that they poured the metal in place in situ, right? So
That's
they didn't
right.
prefab them.
No.
And Dave is right. Walkways as well, entire promenades. And you know where I saw this? The very same shape of kind of metal clamp. I saw it on the side of highway constructions here in Australia. You know, we have to got these concrete barriers. They're about, I don't know, like 3-4 feet high.
Oh,
and they're concrete.
Yeah.
And they're held together at the top.
Like during roadworks.
Yeah. They're held together by exactly that shaped clamp.
Yeah, wow.
So obviously engineering, will find a way to do it, and if it's the right way, then engineering will just repeat it.
Yeah.
Having said that, the amazing thing about Pumu Punku, one, it is completely destroyed, but it's destroyed in such a fashion, it looks like as though somebody picked it all up and just flung it about. That's what it looks like.
Like Lego blocks, Mackie.
Like Lego blocks, yeah, just boom, boom, boom. And what you also find in Pumu Punku, which a lot of books leave out, but I've got a couple of my texts here, they've got faces and heads on the walls, and they have virtually every race
is
on
depicted.
The planet. Yeah, including some that
aren't around any longer.
Fantasy. Yeah, they're called exactly. I think they're no longer around. Others because they're fantasy heads or whatever, or monsters or demons. I think it is quite possible that again we've lost a lot of races along the way as we've traversed the centuries and millennia. But yeah, Pumu Punku, man, weird, crazy stuff.
But even interlocking blocks and H shapes to reduce the mass, but still being able to slide a piece into the joint with dovetailing, so it holds it all together. It's we've never built with concrete or stone in that fashion. They have drill holes, Mackie.
Yeah.
Drill holes, like 2 meters through a rock, perfectly straight. And you can see the inside has had a rotational bit that's cut through.
We're going to spend a lot of time on these techniques as well, drilling and so forth. That's why we have 55 pages of this thing. But Dave is 100% correct. And not only that, but these techniques seem to have been in use across the world at different sites.
Yeah, so the only way to have been able to accomplish that is having a global transit system like we have today, where, up until, the beginning of the year, where we could fly anywhere we wanted.
Yes.
See, I'm already talking about past tense, Mackie, when we used to enjoy this civilization. If I had a rock and a chisel today, and I had to describe what it was like to live in 2019, even before the bushfires, right? What was life like? The things that I wouldn't think were important were the ones that I would write today. Yeah. We used to fly all around the world.
Yeah.
We're connected by the internet and everything's fantastic. But the moment the internet's gone, that'll be one of the first things we mention. How the world was connected. Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. So I think it's quite an extraordinary thing. Like you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And I think that's certainly playing out with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So odd and ancient texts and artifacts.
This is a collection of stuff that exists. These artifacts like in existence, and you can verify it for yourselves. The first one, Dave, is really, really interesting. We've lost the secret of making some of history's most useful inventions, and for all of our ingenuity and discoveries, our ancestors of thousands of years ago and potentially longer ago, I contend here, are still able to baffle us with their ingenuity and discoveries. We have developed the modern equivalent of some of these inventions, but only very recently, and not all of them. The first one here is the magical Roman Technicolor cup. You might have heard of it. If you listen to the show, you have heard of it. It's called the Lycurgus cup, and it's an ancient Roman goblet, and it's been it's actually held at the Smithsonian. All right, that's where it is. And you might wonder what could possibly be so technologically advanced about a cup. You know, does it shimmy over to the fridge and fill itself with beer? Well, no, but there are stories of cups like that. So, you know, don't dismiss it. Scientists actually didn't notice anything special about it either until they held it up to the light. What happens is it looks green when it is lit from the front, but when it is lit from behind, it turns red, deep, rich, blood red. In 1990, British researchers tried to unlock the mystery of the devil's beer stein, or, that's one of the nicknames for it. What they found was that the glass was full of gold and silver flecks, 1,000 times thinner than a human hair. Basically, what that means is that the Romans had discovered nanotechnology, or did they, read about it in some ancient manuscript? The science of manipulating incredibly small particles. To make the cup, they would have had to grind up gold and silver into grains many times smaller than sand and fuse it to the glass in specific proportions to produce subatomic effects that we're only just beginning to understand in recent decades. So again, we've only got the one cup, Dave, right? And the thing is, clearly, if it was so involved and so intricate, one would expect there would be part of a manufacturing process, and many thousands would have been produced. But being glass, chances are most of them would have been smashed to bits, right? So the point I'm making here is there was an industry out there at some point, maybe originally developed by the Romans, or maybe ancient tech that they had just inherited from somewhere else, that we have absolutely no record of whatsoever. Interestingly, scientists did their best to replicate it, and they found that it would probably also have changed colors based on what kind of liquid was poured into it.
Oh my goodness.
It's a hypercolored chalice. What's more, it's even more effective at detecting different kinds of substances in water than modern sensors. Which means that science is actually considering using a piece of tech from the time of Caesar, or the Caesars, to improve modern substance detectors. The ancient Romans were so good at getting drunk that they broke the science of the future. It's a little joke, but the point is, imagine this cup could detect if you're being poisoned.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it?
Right? Pour some poison in, it turns green, or whatever the hell turns green. I don't know, right? But the point is, that's an immediately useful kind of invention if you think about it, right?
Yeah, completely. I can't imagine. Honestly, they've not told us if they've actually made one.
No, I haven't.
But no, you haven't. Yeah, but so navigating the ocean back in ancient times was extremely tricky, given that they didn't have a GPS. Now we take GPS now for granted. They didn't have compasses or even shuffleboard on those rickety old ships. They would have pitched too much for shuffleboard to be effectively played, right? Oh, there it goes again. It's overboard. Here it comes again. Look out. No, there it goes again. Because the ships used to pitch, they were so small, they'd pitch back and forward. If you wanted to go from, say, Europe to the Americas and back, you were just as likely to crash into Madagascar, since all the water looks the same out there. Scientists were puzzled about how the Vikings were consistently able to travel in a totally straight line from Norway to Greenland and back some 1,600 miles, while the rest of the world was rowing around in circles. I sound like a right-wing shock jock. Too proud, of course, they were to ask the passing mermaids for directions, because they're on the maps too, and so are the whales. Then, in 1948, they found an ancient Viking artifact under the 11th century convent and concluded it was a shockingly advanced compass. Before magnetic compasses, ancient mariners had to find their way using sundials, which told the time and direction by shining a shadow onto a disc. As you can imagine, at night or even on a cloudy day, there were they were about as useful as reading tea leaves and sacrificing a goat to Odin. But I love this. I love the writer. This is nice. But the Viking compass, known as the Unatok disc, had ways of getting around that. On top of being an amazingly sophisticated sundial with several shadow tricks to work out the cardinal directions, medieval records of the device refer to a magic crystal that enabled it to work even when the sun wasn't available. The Norse sagas mention a mysterious sunstone, a magical stone, which showed sailors rowed when the sun disappeared. Researchers believe that the certain kind of crystal placed in the device could have created a pattern on the disc when exposed to even dim light, which they could have used to find their way. Now researchers say the stone is real and is a special crystal. One of the reasons why the existences of sunstones have long been disputed is because they are contained in the saga of Saint Olaf, a tale with many magical elements. However, this has changed now. Sunstones can no longer be considered just a myth. Archaeologists have discovered a special crystal that suggests legendary Viking sunstones did exist, and it existed in reality. Upon testing, scientists found less than 4 degrees of error, which is comparable to modern compasses. Even with these results, we still don't know everything about the compass, or if it were even more accurate, since half of it was missing. When we uncovered it, says the author, in any case, we can confidently state the ancient Vikings had at least an Apple Maps beat.
Yeah. Or Google Maps these days, I guess.
Google Maps, that's right.
The text
that's certainly a feat.
I know, right? Look, fascinating. Again, I mean, leftover tech, possibly, and in my opinion, highly likely, right? Which would explain why they were such successful sailors. And before them, the Phoenicians, right? Yeah. All the ancient sailors. The Phoenicians, they didn't divulge any of their secrets. They took all of their secrets back to their civilization's grave. The Carthaginians, same thing. Well, the Carthaginians are really the descendants of the Phoenicians, right? And the Romans ground that city into the ground. It's literally, they salted it, the earth, once they destroyed Carthage. So a lot of knowledge got lost there at that point. And again, the seafaring is really the key thing here that we're discussing at the moment. There's another interesting one here. Massive drills and natural gas pipelines in ancient China. Salt was a highly valuable resource in the ancient world, both as a preservative before refrigeration and as the only weapon keeping the slug people away. But when you live in a country as big as China, you can't necessarily make a trip out to the beach to collect some seawater because, there was no Safeway or no large convenience store for another couple of thousand of years. The Chinese had no choice but to dig down into the ground in search of that savory white gold. And we don't mean they were really good with shovels. The Chinese invented a huge drill consisting of a length of bamboo with an iron bit at the end, with several men that would use it to excavate deep wells into the earth. They may have looked comically unsafe, but by the 3rd century, their salt wells reached as far down as 460 feet into the ground. That's pretty deep. Their drilling methods weren't just ingenious, they were also sophisticated. They designed a whole catalog of drill tips for different circumstances, and even had a protocol for repairing cave-ins underground from the safety of the surface. These boreholes also released methane pockets, and so were dubbed fire wells. But an initially explosive problem became an asset as the Chinese realized they could use this natural gas to power their prehistoric appliances. They transported the gas through a far-reaching series of bamboo pipelines which could carry both the salt water and the gas great distances, including under roads. Sure, we have natural gas pipelines in the modern world too, but we don't have a tap that pours hot and cold running salt, right? So again, some of it I'm sure is Chinese ingenuity, other might be tech that they might have inherited from an older culture, potentially.
Yeah, that's true. Now, Meki, the Iraq battery. That was an Iraq. What's it called? Battery again?
Baghdad.
The Baghdad battery. Well, that's in Iraq. So the antediluvians had technology that matched our own, and I'm talking about ancient metal plating that's still better than ours now.
Yep.
There are also serious indications that in certain areas they even possessed extraordinary knowledge, which has only hardly been nudged by our present-day science. Highly advanced hardening techniques of the ancients as well as ancient castings of large pieces were widespread in antiquity. Meki, I've heard about using the clay to carve out the shape in the clay and pour into that as a mould. And very, very large pours, by the way.
Yeah.
Our ancestors were in possession of an extremely sophisticated scientific knowledge of metalworking from an earlier civilization, and evidence of this knowledge was found in different parts of the world. China, with a long history in metallurgy, was the earliest civilization that manufactured cast iron, and some of the ancient Chinese feats of casting iron were so impressive as to be almost unbelievable. We know that people of the Middle Ages and earlier had the ability to coat materials with thin films of metal like gold and silver. In fact, their methods functioned even better than the ones we use today. We still haven't caught up to the Middle Ages. Ancient Indians, for example, produced iron capable of withstanding corrosion, most likely due to the high phosphorus content of the iron produced during those times. The iron pillar is a column of quad complex of Delhi. It was built around, and this is 400, the year 400, and enjoys, though thoroughly mocking archaeologists and metallurgists, because it's 1600 years old and has not corroded yet. A column of cast iron, 23 feet or 7 meters high, weighing approximately 6 tons with a diameter of 16.4 inches, stands in a courtyard of Qutb Minar in Delhi in India. An inscription in the Sanskrit language informs that the column was originally erected in the temple of Mathura and capped with Garuda, a messenger of the gods, an image of the bird incarnation of the god Vishnu, the Indian god known as the Preserver. Wow. Studies of the iron pillar show that its composition is unusually high in phosphorus, which seems to have shielded the metal underneath from the ravages of nature. It basically nurtures a thin film of harmless rust that gets metallic Stockholm syndrome and fights off deeper, more damaging rust. That's not an accident. Earlier works are lacking that phosphorus, while several later structures were forged in the same fashion. The column in India, made up of 98% wrought iron of impure quality, not in any way welded together, seems to have been forged as a single gigantic piece of iron.
Fascinating. That you know, I actually missed out on seeing it when I went to Delhi.
Oh.
I should remedy it on my next trip, which I'm sure is going to come up at some point in the future. It seems, look, we all know about the mechanism of Antikythera. I think I've got it in here as well. Mm-hmm. But it also seems that the ancient Greeks built programmable robots, right? And if we're looking for evidence that time travel exists, you really can't do better than Hieron of Alexandria. We've mentioned before that he was responsible for the first steam engine, as well as automatic doors and even a robot show back in the 1st century. But those weren't even his most impressive feats. Researchers now credit him for the first programmable robot. It seems silly to call what Hieron built a robot, considering it was a wooden 3-wheeled cart powered by string instead of electricity. But again, remember the very first mechanical or analog computer we had?
Mm-hmm.
That was mostly mechanical as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah, but using a system of timed weights and pulleys, the thing could move by itself, turn corners, and hopefully avoid nearby humans. Despite its crudeness, computer scientists say that this is basically the way that all robots operate. It's just Heron's string of code were actually literally strings. They even built one to show that it works, and it wasn't just a product of Heron's fevered imagination. Heron didn't actually do much with it besides entertain the masses and hopefully get a little strange now and then. At least as far as we know. Maybe we're all stuck in some kind of ancient Greek matrix right now, and the world we think we know is just an elaborate knitting project designed to keep us docile. But the point here is, again, this ingenuity existed, right? And it may be that people got inspired by ancient texts, because don't forget the Greeks were, I guess they were the innovation center of the ancient world. A lot of people went there to study, and ancient Greeks actually went to study into the East and Far East as well, right? So there was a lot of travel around at the time, a lot of exchange of ideas, and I think a lot of this stuff, while some of it might have been original, may have been inspired by older, much older information that they gleaned in their travels and in their studies.
Medieval glass techniques going to Mars. Humans have the technology to send machines to explore Mars, but apparently we have no idea what it looks like after we get there. Due to having almost no ozone layer, the Martian surface is constantly bathed in UV radiation, which, on top of driving up the price of sunscreen, also alters the photographs taken by the Mars rover so that the colours are faded like we used some awful cosmic Instagram filter. To solve this problem, scientists needed to come up with a new form of glass that would stand up to the harsh ultraviolet bombardment of the Martian atmosphere. And by new, we mean new to us, but in reality it was several centuries old. They've retrofitted the rover's cameras with the type of stained glass found in medieval cathedral windows. Glass frescoes from medieval artists have been bombarded by the sun's rays over the ages, yet show little to no evidence of fading. That's because the glass is made up by artisans back in the day, was mixed with gold and silver in such a way as to inadvertently block UV radiation. Was it inadvertent? Effectively forming what we could call nanotechnology now, but they probably called a miracle or the devil's tinting.
But that's
I love how quickly they go to the devil again. Yeah, remember this is the work of the devil, Mickey. It was.
It was. But this is really interesting. So we had the Roman Cup there for a second, and then a few hundred years later, and I got to say something here. Obviously, back in the day when the cathedrals were built, and they hadn't been, the Gothic cathedrals were a phenomenal effort in Europe, right? The Gothic cathedrals are works of art and a testament to advanced architecture. I grew up in the shadow of one in Cologne, one of the largest in Europe, one of the oldest in Europe, the Dome in Cologne, and the number of things that are fascinating with the Gothic architecture. First of all, the masons that produced it, they were a very tight-knit group, like a guild, and they had their own building secrets. Some of them we have no idea to this day how they did it. Others relate to the glass they used, and similarly to the cup, and similarly to the that's correct. Similarly to the Roman color changing.
Yes, cup. Yep.
The cathedral glasses were also described as being extraordinarily luminescent, and clearly as well UV filtering. And this technique of producing, it's called Gothic glass actually, has been lost to us. I mean, recently rediscovered, but lost over centuries intervening. I mean, lost to the wider world, because obviously the guilds, the masons, kept all of those secrets of how to build these things to themselves. Interesting enough, Eau de Cologne comes from there. In fact, I walked past the building 4711 many times in my childhood. So yeah, but it's a thing. To tell us about.
No, you read this one out.
Oh, is it mine? Is it? Oh, sorry. Ancient Chinese medicine, teaching Western doctors a trick or two. I can vouch for Chinese medicine, by the way. If you went to the doctor to cure your debilitating pain and he handed you a type of fungus found in the forests of China, you would probably stop visiting doctors who run their practice out of a cardboard box in the alley by Sears. But that's what's happening. Doctors with all sorts of scientific credentials are looking to ancient Chinese medicine to succeed where modern equivalents have fallen short. For example, a new drug called fingolimod, which sounds like a hobbit that nobody likes, is the first oral medicine available for multiple sclerosis. It offers new treatment options for hundreds of thousands of sufferers. And yes, it is derived from a fungus used in Chinese medicine. The Cordialis yanhusuo plant has been used in Chinese medicine for centuries and has recently given us a new painkiller that combats inflammatory and neuropathic pain. Not only that, it's the only thing that works. No other modern drug has been found to alleviate neural pain as well as it. It doesn't stop there either. Artemisinin is an anti-malarial drug that can trace its origin back to traditional sweet wormwood. The awesomely named Thundergod vine is being developed as a treatment for rheumatoid arthritis, as well as to treat deficiencies in vitamin. Even black bear bile, which is just about as close to a witch doctor cure as you can get without grinding up newts, has been shown to be effective against type 2 diabetes. The only problem, of course, is getting it out of the bear when you're already weakened by diabetes. In fact, yeah, I know, right? In fact, new research reckons that about 60% of the herbs used in Chinese medicine may be useful in developing new modern medicines. Also, fortune cookies are totally accurate, and people can really run across legs like a crouching tiger, hidden dragon. No, it's just a bit of facetiousness here. But the point is, Chinese medicine is thousands of years old, and I think it's more than 60% accurate. By the way, and not only that, there's a lot of there are a lot of things in Chinese medicine that are completely different to Western medicine. Western medicine will treat a symptom. You got a headache. I'll make the headache go away, by shutting off the pain receptors. Mm-hmm. The Chinese doctor will go, okay, well, what's the reason you got a headache here? Let's treat the cause of your disease, not the symptom. Mm. So we are about symptom management in Western medicine for the most part, whereas Chinese medicine is about holistically making you better, which takes longer, but ultimately is better for you. I think we're running out of time here today.
I think so too, yeah. So what we'll do, we'll carry on next week with the continuation of this, with architects using millennial old techniques to build better houses. That's what we're going to continue on next week. Mecca, this is fascinating, and I know you and we've never had a dull day talking about ancient tech and what it means from an evolutionary, cyclical sine wave sort of Stone Age to tech, in between we have die-off.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be a thing. It really does, and I'm really disturbed by what's happening in the world today, as we're approaching the number that you and I, we came up with not arbitrarily, but certainly several leaps of faith, and in the formulation of that formula. Not to double dutch it, but it's disturbing to see that some things are playing out in the way that it was mentioned on the show. But yeah, it seems to be a thing that every 10, 15,000 years or so, events transpire to keep our numbers down and send us back into the technological dark ages, more or less. Again, I don't know what's happening with this one here, and maybe we can get out of it. Maybe this is the one where we've been waiting for. When I was younger, I went to a lot of fortune tellers, and they told me this is the time a lot of people have been chosen to be born into. Mm-hmm. A lot of sages and seers and healers, etc. I don't know. Back then, I thought it was just BS, right? Mm-hmm. But now I'm not so sure anymore. I'll be honest with you. I'm not so. I don't know if I can just dismiss it as flippantly as all that, because suddenly there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. And I urge everybody to watch this new TV show called I think it's the Skinwalker Ranch. It's a TV show, and it's
completely. Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's owned by a billionaire or a real estate millionaire or something. He sent people there to investigate it. It's a fascinating show. Watch it if you can. A lot of things are coming to light.
There's that music we long for so much. Now, coming up next, this is the end of Shiny Side Out, show 423. But do catch Jer Bear's show coming up next. Always with an awesome show. And we'll catch you next week for show 424. Take care, self-isolate, and let's get over this. Good night.